Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tales from the Inside. And now, would you please welcome your host for the show, Angela Sawyer?
Hello! Hi, everybody. It's so nice to talk to you. Welcome to Tales from the Inside. This is a storytelling show that we've been running every week during quarantine, which is so many weeks now. I don't remember what the other life ever was. So, very nice to have you. Thank you so much for coming. This is a show that once long ago, once upon a time, used to happen in my living room, and people would actually come to my house. That's a thing. And the whole idea of the show is that people kind of get to be who they are. A lot of people who perform, especially people who perform comedy, they get a lot of chances to say what they're going to say many times in a row and make gestures at the right moments, and they kind of get to practice how to be in front of people, but they don't get a chance to sort of think on their feet and really be loose and just kind of say whatever is actually inside their skulls. They're always trying to like make it work. And so this is a show where they don't have to make it work. They can just be who they actually are and tell us about their real lives. And maybe they'll lie and we won't know. And that's also great. So I'm very excited. I get to book my favorite thing about the show is I get to book people I actually like to talk to, and it's so nice to just kind of like get to know them. And I don't know about you, but I have been sitting in my house for months and have no friends left. So this is the where I get to pretend like I have some, and it's cool. I like it a lot. If you've been following along during the quarantine, you know that I have now said everything that has ever happened to me at my computer, and my roommates are way more scared of me than they were a few months ago. So I've been telling stories, and we're going to have some other people tell them as well, and it'll be a good time. So thanks for hanging out. So tonight, of course, like everyone in the world, I have been anxious all day thinking about the election. And so I was thinking about who I've ever voted for in my, like, I, unlike many people, I've only ever voted for a few people. This particular election was the first time that I had ever voted Joe Biden. And I've only ever voted for three other people. I voted for Bernie twice. I voted for Jimmy Carter in 1976 in my first grade class. And all of the times in between that, I voted for Phil Spector, who is not on any ballots. I wrote him in. uh, in my defense, I voted for Phil Spector before he killed anyone, but also to my detriment, I kept voting for him after he killed a lady. If that doesn't make sense to you, it's because you don't know that I spend a lot of time paying attention to music, and I was convinced that Phil Spector should run the universe, and that anybody who didn't think so shouldn't talk to me. So tonight, I just want to tell you the story of the first time I ever voted, which is when I was in first grade. When I was in first grade, as you may have surmised by just my vibe in general, I was awful to be around. I was a child who told you that I had read more books than you out loud. No matter your age or status, I would tell you about it. So my goal when I was in first grade was to read all of the books in the elementary school library and to let someone somewhere know, the principal, God. I was pretty convinced that the world was run by Daryl Hall of Hall and Oates, so maybe him. Uh, I wanted to make sure that somebody knew that our elementary school was not correct. It was just not set up right because it should look like the studio set from Welcome Back, Kotter, and it did not. If you have been know anything about the 70s, most elementary schools looked like they took some lousy long carpet and just put it on all surfaces. They put it on the walls, they put it on the ceiling, and the coolest thing that you could do with a building was have walls that were not attached to other walls. That was just what the fashion was at that time, and then put carpet on it. So there were a lot of the elementary school that I went to, all the classrooms were only had three walls, and usually two of them moved, and then one was just missing. And everything had carpet on it, which is not enough to deaden the sound of a couple hundred children. So it was a classroom where there was someone yelling all the time. And our job was to, my job, I thought, was to sneak out and read the books in the library. The library happened to be housed in between all the open classrooms in the middle of the building. So there's just like, it's a school with no walls, just like pigeon boxes, for classrooms. And then in the middle, there's the library with no walls around the library, which meant it was very easy for me to go and get the next book in the Nancy Drew Hardy Boys series, which was the only thing that I cared about. And so I would sneak out of my class and get Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys books and read them and then put them back and get the next one. And that was most of my world at that time. On Sunday nights, there was a television show that had one of the guys that had the Hardy Boys in it. And Sean Cassidy was the star of the show. And that's how I found out that I was straight. I saw that guy and he was very clean shaven. I was like, that's the one. That's the dude. I'm into it. So later, my mom bought me a puzzle with Sean Cassidy's face on it, and he had stubble, and I was like, no, I gave him up. I was like 6, and I was just like, I can't handle it. So that was what my world was like. And like a lot of first graders, we were asked to do a mock election. And I didn't know who to vote for. It was the one thing in the world that the Nancy Drew Hardy Boys book series couldn't advise me on. So I had parents, like most kids in the 70s, who just let you alone. That was considered the height of good parenting, to just like not speak to you, have you being outside as much as possible. Everybody thought if their kids were raised by the son would do a better job than they would. So I didn't see my parents often enough to ask them who I should vote for. And the only thing that I knew about the two candidates for president in 1976, Reagan and Jimmy Carter, was that Jimmy Carter had recently been taking over Saturday morning cartoons because there was a hostage crisis, and so the news was on all the time instead. So every morning I'd get up super early, like you do, and get dry cereal to sit like 2 inches from the TV and watch cartoons for as many hours as possible. I would sneak out of bed at like 4:45 in the morning and try and catch the first one. And then they would run until like noon, and that was the whole goal, to see as many cartoons as you could. And I would sit, there were no remotes, so you had to sit within arm's reach of the channel changer. That was the whole idea. And if you, TVs weren't as big then, but if you sat right in front of it, it seemed very large. And I was very disconcerted that it kept happening Saturday after Saturday. You'd get about half an hour into cartoons, and you would hit 5 or 6 in the morning, and the cartoons would be interrupted with the news. The woman on the news had my mom's name. It turns out that my mom's name is Diane Sawyer. She's ungoogleable. And so I was sitting there watching cartoons one morning, and they were like, and now here's Diane Sawyer. And I was like, oh, I better watch this. This should be informative. And I watched, and it was just a blonde lady who I didn't know talking endlessly about some people sitting in a room who I couldn't see and didn't know. And that was as far as I knew as the hostage crisis went. So I was annoyed with Jimmy Carter as a 6, 7-year-old, because I was like, this is the guy who's sending that lady who is not my mom to take away cartoons. This guy's probably a dick, probably a jerk. And I expressed that. I couldn't talk to my parents, so I expressed that to my first grade teacher. And thankfully, my first grade teacher was like, "You like books, right? You should like Jimmy Carter." And I couldn't understand how she could figure that out. And she sat me down and tried to explain how America works to me. And I still haven't figured it out, obviously. Uh, when we had the election, like many mock elections, it completely, perfectly predicted the actual election. Reagan won in a landslide, and I was super shocked and horrified because my first grade teacher had told me that people who like books are Jimmy Carter's kind of people, and all these people in my first grade class had voted for the other guy who I didn't know at all. And what I want to say with this is that I spent my entire today rewriting my resume. I rewrote it like 5 times so that I could apply for secretary jobs in Toronto. And and maybe I won't have to move there. And that's not much, but that tiny bit of hope is something that I will take for now. Just once, maybe, the people who like books and aren't wildly racist will get a day. I don't want to jinx it, but I hope that's what happens. You guys should agree with me, or else I wouldn't have asked you to be here. But you can't. You don't have to. Okay, so that's my story for today. That's the story of how I learned to vote. Uh, your first performer on the show is so great. I'm so excited to talk to her. I haven't seen her forever, and it's really, really nice. She's a really great storyteller. And before COVID, I saw her doing a bunch of mics and little shows all around Boston. I had her on a show in at the Square Root in Roslindale, and I'm just it's been too long since I got to hear what she has to say, so I'm very excited to introduce her to you. Please put your hands together right now for Jill Shastany.
Thank you. Thanks, Angela. Yeah, this story, I will say, it does feel pretty inconsequential in the grand scheme of things right now. So, thanks for at least you know covering the topical elements with the voting. Um, so this story takes place in the south of France, near Marseille, when I was 22 years old. So I had been in an 8-year relationship, and I was teaching English in France after college, and I was expecting a visit from my boyfriend. So he was coming in. I had been in France now for about 6 months, and was a little nervous. I wondered, if it would be different. He wasn't really the worldly type of person. He was kind of a kids menu kind of guy. Very into, chicken and burgers and cheese. Um, was a little bit of a nervous guy. um, and so I'd been in France for all this time, and I was uh, heading to the airport to pick him up. So I get to the Marseille airport, and I'm waiting for him to arrive, and I'm at the baggage claim, and I'm wondering, like, will it be different? What will he look like? Will I be happy? Because I kind of had these underlying reservations about everything, just being away from him and kind of living this separate life all this time. And so I'm waiting in the baggage claim, and there's this sort of glass enclosure, and behind it is an escalator, where I'm waiting for him to come down. And so I see people, coming through. They'll appear first as shoes, and then legs and thighs and a torso, and then a person going to meet their loved one. And so I'm waiting and waiting, and at some point I see a pair of Nike Air Max, white on whites, and a bit of heather gray sweatpants, just kind of rising up, going right up to the legs, right up to the thighs, and then there's more gray. So he's wearing gray sweatpants and a gray sweatshirt. So he's just gray on gray and white on white. He's coming down, and then his face appears, and it's him. It's Christopher, and it's 6'7" Christopher, with a purple suitcase by his side, coming down the escalator. Um, and I see him, and he smiles. He's got this big Celtics hat on, um, and he's also carrying a black messenger bag. So he comes up to me, and it's a little awkward, but he tells me that he has to wait for another bag. So we wait, and then he has this giant purple matching bag that comes in, and he's got 3 giant bags. He's staying for 2 weeks to visit me, and he has about as much as I brought to stay for 8 months. So we get the stuff, we get on the bus, and we go back to my apartment. And all the while, it's kind of just a little bit tense. I feel like for the first time, we're kind of at a loss as to what to talk about, even though we're in this new foreign place, and I'm, trying to welcome him here. And so it's a little quiet. We get to my apartment, and he says, all right, he's like, I brought you a few things, and he starts to empty his smaller purple suitcase. And first he takes out a bottle of Frank's Red Hot, which I'd been looking for. It's been a while without it. So he brings a bottle of Frank's Red Hot, but it's like the tiniest bottle that I've ever seen. It's not really enough for like one chicken breast, let alone like a few more months in France without it. He brings out a jar of Teddy's peanut butter, which I also requested. And he got the chunky part right, but it's unsalted. And that's fine. I'm happy to see him. um, and so it's a little tense, but he's like, I have something else for you. And that's when I start to panic, because I know that he is about to propose to me. And it's in the midst of this very awkward, kind of just like foreign experience between us, right? So at the time I was living with a roommate, and she was away. And normally I would live in what she called a pseudo chambre in the corner of our apartment, with a curtain over, just dividing the living room, right? And a cot-like bed with a really shitty mattress. And so he asked me to come sit with him. And he's a big dude. I'm not a small lady. But we sit down on this little cot, and he starts going into, the fact that we've been together for 8 years. Mind you, I'm 22 again, so these are really pivotal years. We were together from high school, through college, and then after that. And so he's kind of gives this spiel, and then, he presents this ring to me. And again, he's a big guy, and I'm not like, I don't really care about rings or marriage or anything, but in his hand, the ring was a little smaller than I think he would have liked for it to seem. Um, and so he does the thing. He proposes to me, and I say yes. But meanwhile, the bed is caving in. So we're sitting there. I'm trying to pay attention with all the nerves and everything that's going on. And the bed is just caving in. We're just sinking right in. And so I say yes, and my immediate reaction is okay, like okay, okay, yeah, this is great, but we need to fix the bed. So I'm all flustered, and we turn the bed over, and then we're just kind of stepping on it, trying to jam the metal back into place to make it a bed again. Um, and so then he's of course tired from his travels, and he wants to take a nap. So then he goes off into the other room, into my roommate's bed, and takes a nap. And I'm just kind of left there, kind of bewildered after just seeing him for the first time in several months, and having this engagement that uh, sort of felt like a guillotine. That I didn't really know how to stop that and say, he's going to be here for 2 weeks. Um, I can't really say no right now. Um, so so I ran out, ran to my friend's place, and I told her what happened. I didn't know if I was, excited or horrified. But then if you it's like 8 months. So 6 months later, I was back in the U.S., and we were working together at a really shitty creperie, working in an open kitchen together. And I had started to sort of lose my mind. I bought a car off of at this used dealership, um, just to kind of make some rash decision, and it didn't even make it to my house. I got really drunk at my 5-year high school reunion that summer, and was just kind of like unraveling. So we're working together one day, and I hadn't slept because I had realized, that I needed to end it, because it just wasn't right. I was a kid, and we'd been together for so long. Um, and I told him while I was manning the grill, um, that I was no longer in love with him, and that uh, this had to end. And we had to work together for 2 more hours. I had to continue to serve people like um, through that. Uh, and so we're at the cafe, and then finally, after the 2-hour shift, and he leaves. Um, my mom comes into the cafe. She's unknowing, and earlier that same week, she had gotten stung by a bee, and her finger had swelled up. So she had to go to the fire department to get her ring cut off. And so she came up to me at the cafe, and she goes, "I got my ring back," showing me that she had gotten it back from the fire department. And I just had to flash my finger and tell her that I had given my ring back. So uh, she then told me, in the basement of this cafe, that she didn't see us ending up together, and I wish that she had told me that a little bit sooner. But uh, thank you. That's my story.
Guys, give it up for Jill Chastity.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. What I want to know is, did you look later to see if there were any Yelp reviews of the after, like the 2 hours after?
No,
I
I
just
did
feel
not.
like those are the crepes I want to try. I don't know if they would be different, but I want to find out.
Right.
uh, I'm very glad that you didn't end up married to someone who you didn't want to be married to. Well done. That's a very hard thing to figure out, especially I think for women when you're younger. You've been you've spent your whole life being pushed to never tell someone no, and even to say no thank you is a big deal. And so then to just be like, I know we're going down this road and I'm getting off the train is really tough. So good work. You did good. Okay. I'm excited for your next performer. This guy's great. I just last night I was trying to be distracted from the news, and I was on a 3 hour long mic from him, and he made it so much fun. He was very drunk and very charming, and it was really really fun. He's so great. I think you guys are gonna love him to death. Please welcome R.A. Bartlett.
Hey guys, so my assignment for this thing, Angela said, relate an experience where your insides became your outsides. So, all right, like, I think I have a fun story about that. While ago, I got cancer. I know that's pretty dark, but like, well, she was even saying like it doesn't have to be literal. It can be metaphorical, like you spill secrets or something, like secrets come out. Like I don't tell secrets people tell me. Like I don't betray confidence. Like I'm a very trustworthy guy, and for my loyalty, God rewarded me with cancer. So this was like 15 years ago. I want to say, actually, to the like maybe to the day. I think so. Yeah, this is a little bit of a 15-year anniversary. Like BuzzFeed should be doing retrospectives on this. Where are they now? Well, I'm here now, and so yeah, basically it was a form of a testicular cancer, which is great. It's weirdly convenient because my mom, like having conversations with my mom, she was like, "Why don't you give me grandkids? Why don't you give me grandkids? I'm waiting for grandkids." And getting testicular cancer can really get your parents off your back about giving them grandkids. Fun fact: the same week I was diagnosed, my sister had like an out of wedlock pregnancy. So it's a real when God closes a door, he opens a window situation for that household. So, but anyways, yeah, I would have to. The operation was pretty successful, but I would have to go back. I guess you could say my testicles became my outside. Although it's not my outside anymore. It's more like science's outside. But so I would just go. I would get driven to the hospital, and it's funny. This is 2005. I don't know if you remember this. This was the year right after the Red Sox won the World Series in like 100 years. And, well, like a lot of Red Sox fans aren't the most magnanimous people. They got a little cocky with that. See that? Look, we conquered black magic. That's how tough we are. So, like my stepdad, who was driving me to the hospital, wore an especially salty hat, which was a Yankee haters hat. And so, like, which wouldn't be out of place in most Providence Place buildings. But as it turned out, the radiation technician was a Yankees fan. So, like, just as I'm rolling up to the machine, and they're holding the poisonous cloud of radioactivity over my torso. He's saying, "I noticed the guy you brought." That looked like a Yankee haters fan. He hates the Yankees, so that was good for the nerves. And also he would talk about but he would try and be friends with me and say like how he's catching up on the Star Wars movies, and like he was like not only the only guy in Providence to support the Yankees, but apparently the last guy to see the Star Wars trilogy. So he would just be telling me different story like with his son and getting all the names wrong, which as a geek kind of I'm not even that much of a Star Wars fan, but no, that was not Christopher Lee playing Grand Moff Tarkin. That was Peter Cushing. Those are two different individuals. This is bullshit. And so, but the first day, otherwise went good. I was like extremely dizzy, like ready to puke. So we got in the car, and I will say this. I don't know if you ever seen like Providence in November. When the sun is setting, it's actually like very beautiful. Like you can see the way the sun hits the mall, which has a very sort of neoclassical design, and everything is just this warm golden hue, and that color made me puke. It is not. It's like you want more soothing, cool colors when your stomach is a maelstrom. But as it happened, this was something that would happen like every day, I think, and I would throw up a lot of my meals. So my meal plan would be like, all right, what's the most pleasant way for this to go down? Like, what kind of meals are a good Irish exit for me? And so I had a tabulation like spaghetti is the worst. Not even just the sauce. Like obviously, no, even having it dry. Like you, I don't know if you like. No, I imagine most of you have never had a spaghetti cancer puke. But I would describe the sensation is. Do you guys ever watch Japanese animation? The really forbidden stuff that you don't want your history seeing. It was a lot like that. It was very the fisherman's wife, and so that was off the list. I thought like oatmeal. Oatmeal is good, right? Oatmeal is a very inoffensive like food. It's like oatmeal is the platonic ideal of bland, right? It's the Joe Biden of meals. And so I took a couple, but this is the thing about the Joe Biden of meals. He's bland, but he's also a little bit awkward. So when you vomit out oatmeal, it takes forever. It's just, it's just like a march and step right out. So that's not good. I think if I had to make a choice, if you're ever in my situation, I would recommend bananas. Uh, and I would say Jello. Although I think like if you have to eat Jello, Jello is like saying that Jello is good to have because it's the least offensive to throw up is like that old dad joke about my favorite show being reruns because then I can just turn the TV off. Like Jello is not a real meal by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, otherwise like it was a very grueling experience, but I will say it prepared me for COVID because like when March hit, it was like, oh man, can you just imagine the worst possible thing to just be at home when it's dark and gloomy out and you can't leave the house and you're gonna be sick? I'm like, oh, that's where I'm a cowboy. That is where I have earned my doctorate in just not going anywhere for a month. Of course, like obviously, like we're on the master's degree now. Like but no, like that's why I'm able to thrive. Not because I'm a psycho or anything, but just because like I can feel weirdly nostalgic in a warped kind of way. Uh, another happy ending, I guess. Not having having a functioning sperm net, like shooting blanks now, is really good with the Supreme Court going the way it is. I can be like, hey, no mess, no fuss. This is some real e-cigarette dick you're getting here. But yeah, so like that was like a rough experience, but I think I've become stronger, and I just want to let you guys know if the worst time of your life will uh be exploited by Angela at some point in the future. So otherwise, that's my story. Thanks very much. Give you back to your host.
Guys, give it up for RA Bartlett. That was fantastic. Thank you. It's very on brand for you, RA. I said it yesterday. I'm going to say it again. Super on brand for you that the sins of George Lucas are more painful to you than cancer. Also, I had cancer in 2017. I had the lady version of genital cancer. I'm fine now. Nothing wrong with me. I had mine. I loved it. It was really easy. Basically, I went to the doctor and I was like, something's not going the way it should, and I had surgery. They just take it away. They're just like, that bothers you. We'll get rid of it. Uh, And I had the same experience as you, where when I went for the surgery, the doctor took the time to roast my clothes that I wore to have surgery in. Uh, they give you a ton of rules. Like the surgery came up really quick for me because they were like, we got to take it, whatever this is, away quickly. And so they just give you this sheet of instructions, and the instructions are tell you all these things you cannot wear to the hospital.
Battery level 17%.
Somebody's at 17%. It's going to be fine. Uh, so they give you this big sheet of instructions that you can't wear to the hospital, and like you can't wear jeans, you can't wear like bulky clothes, you can't wear clothes that are too thin, you can't. And it's all these things.
Level 18%.
Who's telling you this?
And so I wore sweatpants with shorts on top, which is, I guess, super weird. It's not like I've never seen a frat boy wear it on the subway. It seems totally normal to me. But that's what I happen to wear. And the surgeon was furious. That's what I chose to have cancer surgery in. And I was just like, I don't think it matters that much. Like, I'm not going to, like, I'm getting endometrial surgery. Like, I'm not wearing them during the surgery. They won't even be there. And here's the thing. It was mostly really nice. I flirted with cancer for a few weeks and had a great time. It didn't hurt much. I didn't have to pay for it because it was such a big deal thing that they paid for it. And everyone that I have ever met called me and tried to bring me guacamole. I'm not sure why guacamole was the default, but that's everybody was like, oh, there's something wrong with your lady parts, guacamole for you. And basically, I learned that I am a good tailgate party. My cancer was everybody's favorite tailgate. And I ate free chips for months after that. And that's really what I want from the world. So it was totally okay. I'm glad that you're okay too. Okay, so I've got more performers for you. Your next performer is one of my favorite people on the earth. I used to work with her in a record store. Of all the record store people, I've worked in record stores for many years. None of them are allowed anywhere near my life right now, except for your next performer. They're evil, awful people who are just trying to like get back at whatever happens to them in high school, but not your next performer. She is amazing. She's a longtime Improv Boston alumni, and you will love her. Please welcome Dot Dwyer.
Hi, everybody. So I'm sorry about the lighting. I'm probably going to go off topic with Angela had given me assignment, and I don't think what is wrong? Weird. So I am I'm one of 3 children, and I have 2 first cousins, and my father was one of 2 kids. So these 2 kids are my aunt's kids. So I have one cousin who was really kind of my favorite cousin. And every year I would send him like one of those, edible arrangements, or, I would send him something like either flowers or edible arrangement, or, just a little something. And I send him, a card every year, a Christmas card, wife. And so the last couple of years I had sent him edible arrangement for his birthday, and then I sent his wife a nice flower arrangement for her birthday, and then Christmas cards and stuff like that. And I hadn't heard from them, and I just thought it was weird. So, but I was just too busy, and I never called them. So I sent my cousin a birthday card for his birthday this year in September. And about a week after I'd sent this card, his wife called, and she left a message on the old number, so we still have a landline, but I know she has my cell phone number, but she never called me on my cell. She called the landline. So my brother sends me a text. I'm at work, and he says, cousin Kate called. So I'm like, oh, that's where Kate called, but my cousin didn't call. So my brother listens to the whole message, and my cousin has passed away in February of 2019. So my cousin has been dead for almost 2 years. I didn't know anything about it. So in that cycle, I would have sent flowers and edible arrangements and Christmas cards, and no one thought to let me know or let my brothers know that our cousin had passed away. So I finally get my cousin's wife on the line, and we're talking, and she's like, hey, listen, I don't know what happened, but I noticed that you had sent a Christmas birthday card the first year after Dennis had passed, and then you sent another one last week, and he's dead. He's been dead for a while, and that's when I realized that you didn't know he had passed away. And so what had happened was my cousin was uncharacteristically got sick. His wife has been sick on and off quite a bit. She's got some recurring physical thing. So she was in the hospital and he was in the hospital. So they couldn't go visit each other. And on the day she got out of the hospital, he had passed away. So they had a very quick sort of, funeral, I guess. I don't know. Because I didn't go because I didn't know about it. And then when I talked to my cousin, she's like, well, I had been sick. And so I had said to his brother, call your cousins on that side. And he never called. He never called us. So my cousin passed away, and it wasn't cancer. I know that's a subject right now, but it wasn't cancer. And I used to go to baseball games with him, and I miss him. But what was weird was the first bit of information that got to me was he died in February. So that meant he had died at the beginning of the COVID. And then my brother sent me the obit, and he had died like a year ago in February. So there was no COVID yet. Nobody was talking about it or anything. So basically I'm sort of in the aftermath of my cousin passing away, and it's a sudden thing for me, but he's been gone for a year and a half. So the funny part was that I had sent a couple of cards and flower arrangements, and I never heard from them. Whereas I would in the past, somebody would call or send, hey, send me an email or something. So, so that was the story that I was thinking about for this. Angela had given me an assignment, and the assignment was about lying to children. And my response was, well, I generally lie to children, but I don't have a really good story. And then I thought about when my friend's niece was a little girl, she loved The Wizard of Oz. She absolutely loved The Wizard of Oz. And every chance I got, I tried to convince her that I was the grown-up Dorothy. So, I mean, my hair is kind of blondish now, but, for many years I had long, dark hair. And yes, I colored it, but, and the kid never bought it. She never bought it as me as the grown-up version of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. And I didn't make it to the 8 minutes, Angela, but, it was fun. I'm done.
Donna, it was great. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're not Judy Garland. You're much better the way you are.
Me too.
So, did you ask your cousin Kate, your cousin's wife Kate, did she eat the edible arrangements? That's what I want to know.
I didn't.
You got to ask her.
I didn't ask. But mostly because I was more in shock about the news.
Of course.
It wasn't like something, didn't have a stress. But now I will. I'll call her next time I talk to her. I'll ask her.
Good, good. That's what I want to know. You can tell her that I wanted to know. You don't. It's just you can tell her it was me.
Oh no! Now I
Um,
want to know too. What happened to her? Yeah.
I'm sorry that you lost your cousin, especially when you can't commiserate. But we're here for you, and uh, in at least you get to find out what they did. Like normally, you can't ask, but now I think you can, so that'll be good. Okay, so your
Yeah.
next performer, I'm very, very excited for. He is part of this great show called The Sort of Late Show in Worcester. You should definitely look it up, check it out. I see him pretty much whenever I go to Worcester, and as far as I'm concerned, he is the center of the universe there, and he's extremely funny. I look forward to the drive every time because I know I'm going to hear him say something that I really like. Please put your hands together right now for Doug Gurton.
Oh, hello, everybody. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, everybody. Hi, yes. Uh, I've never done one of these before. I'm not a storyteller per se, so bear with me. I guess Angela, you gave me the topic, the time I thought I could save the world. I'm assuming you meant that metaphorically, but I have a literal story about that one time. So my story also takes place in the same time as RA's, around 2004, 2005. I think it was 2004. And I was watching the Red Sox, which tells you how long ago it was. I still cared about baseball. So I was watching Red Sox, big into it, living in Webster, Mass. I don't know if people know where Webster, Mass is. It's west of Worcester, near Connecticut. Great town. I like it. It's a small-ish town. A lot of drinking goes on. A lot of drinking goes on in that town. A whole lot. Hard-working bunch. Come home from work and they drink, and that's great. And I like being in a town like that. I have no problem. That's where I grew up. That's where I ended up. I was living with my girlfriend at the time with our baby. She was at work. I was home watching the baby. 26-year-old Doug. No idea what's going on with a baby. I think that was past the time where I felt like I was still just babysitting someone else's kid. It got time like, oh, I think this kid's sticking around. So it was nice. I was like dad zone, like finally getting into dad zone. And he's a baby. He's just sitting there. I'm by myself. I like to smoke weed. I'm gonna, so I enjoy a little weed, watching the Sox. The Sox are stressing me out. I'm sure it was October. It was right around that time. Did the baby get contact high? Time will tell. I don't know. It's too early to tell on that. Polls are still out. We don't know. So whatever. I'm here. I'm there, but I'm getting pretty high, and I hear like some big noise outside. So I look outside the window and I see what I think it's a UFO, unidentified flying object. This is a true story. It is an unidentified flying object because me, novice flying object identifier, couldn't identify it. Right? So in scientific terms, UFO. In my head, I'm like, that's not a UFO, but I'm like, that could have fucking been a UFO. I don't know what it was. Big lights flashing. So I go back about my business, and so I'm high, and it is weird having the kid there, and it's different now. He's 16. Oh, Doug, you look so young. Stop. Go ahead. Mute them. So it's different now. Smoking him around, like. He knows. I mean, he has to know now. I mean, obviously he knows now. Like I'm that jerk. Like I'm smoking outside my window. Like I'm the one in high school trying to sneak it from my dad. You know what I mean? It's bad. So, you know what I mean? So it's tough. Just side note. Recently, I just found the first weed in my house that wasn't mine. Obviously, it was his. You know what I mean? So I go, what are you smoking weed in my house? You know what I mean? What's going on? he goes, "Oh, Dad, I wasn't smoking there. I must have just left out, maybe with my friends." I'm like, "If I was smoking, you would have smelled it." I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, "Well, all right, that must mean you can smell it when I smoke." That's what that means. Um, so yeah, so it's important to know I was high. Am I blaming the weed for what happens next? No. Should I? Probably, but I'm not. I'm just saying I was high at the time. I happen to love alien movies. Independence Day, say what you will, it's one of my favorite movies. I love when humans battle aliens. You know what I mean? Just normal Joes, and I felt like, this is imagine that it could be a UFO. It'd be great. So then all of a sudden, about 10 minutes later, I hear fire engines coming down my road. Sirens, fire engines, cop car right behind it. So I'm like, no. So I go outside my front door. Then I see people, Websterites, in pickup trucks, fucking yelling like, "Let's go, let's go, let's go, woo, let's go." I'm like, is it happening? Is this really happening? I'm like, it's this. For on my son's life, for a couple minutes, I'm like, this is actually happening. I'm witnessing this right now. Cannot believe this has happened right now. I saw it. It must have crashed. They're going to the crash site. I'm like, I got to get with these guys. So I run out to them. I'm trying to yell to them, like, what's going on? And then I see cheerleaders, which is strange right away. I'm like, shh. You wouldn't pick cheerleaders to go out and battle aliens. You wouldn't do that. And then I see football players in back of pickup trucks in uniform yelling, "Let's go." And then I see homecoming signs. And realizing then I lived real close to the football field. And the light I saw, I don't know what I saw. That still could have been a UFO. But for 2 minutes, I thought they were going to the crash site. And instead, it was just a parade after they won the big game. That they happened to fucking lease out the fire engine for, like, fire department had nothing to do that night. Cop car, just nothing. So, I thought the fire engines, they're not going to, whatever. So one of the more embarrassing things, I looked at my son, I'm like, am I going to tell you this story one day? Am I going to tell you this? And quick update. No, I have not told him that. I will not tell him that. Pretty sure you guys are the only people I've ever told that story to. And it only triggered my memory because of the topic. So thanks. I don't know how long that was, but that was my story.
Guys, give it up for Doug Gurton. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Somewhere out there, there's a cheerleader who is like, at my homecoming, this high dude just ran out, big eyes, saucer pupils, and yeah, she probably thought she saw an alien too. That's perfect. Very funny. Thank you. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, so luckily I have never I never went to a homecoming game. I grew up in a football house though, so I know how important the big game is. I'm originally from Denver, and where I grew up, I don't know. Red Sox mania is very real, but it doesn't feel as big to me as Bronco fandom from when I grew up. Where I grew up, there was every store that you went in, whether it was a convenience store or a mattress store or whatever, every store had a section where things were orange so that you could buy things in Bronco colors. And there were multiple people, not on every block, but like in every neighborhood at least, who had all orange things. They painted their house orange, they painted their cars orange, everything in their house was orange, and they were not news. It was a really, really big deal. There was no baseball team, and the basketball team was very bad in Colorado when I was a kid. So the world revolved around football games, and when they were on, you couldn't do other things because people just stopped working and went to watch the football game. So people just organize their lives around it. Like even if you didn't go, you couldn't go to Target or go to an office or anything like that because everybody there, every single employee was in the back or somewhere else watching the game. And if you were into it at all, it was a whole week long prep because you had to have the tailgate party, which is like if you're there, if you're in the like into the game, that's like a 10-hour party that you have to plan to eat and drink heavily at the entire time. So it's very paced. You have to make sure that you prep the food so that it's all coming at the right time, and you prep all of the beer so that it's all cold at the right time or whatever it is. There's going to be kids and old people, so you have to prep different food and different drinks for them. And so every person that you know has to be involved in like putting that together and taking it to a parking lot because the best way to show love for your team is to be in a parking lot 6 blocks away from the stadium. And all I'm trying to say is I can understand why someone would see a big game celebration and be like, aliens are here now. It's definitely can happen. Okay, so I've got two performers left for you. They're both really, really great. I'm very excited. Your next performer is visiting us from LA and used to live here. I miss him very much. And he's very, very funny. I can't wait to see what he's going to say. And you're going to love him if you haven't met him already. So please welcome Killian McCaskey.
Hi, good to see everyone. Thank you, Angela, for having me.
Yeah.
I don't know who's tuning into the Comedy Studio webpage. I assume it's the type of people who place cameras in Starbucks bathrooms. It's very voyeuristic and strange to me that someone would tune into a Zoom comedy show, but I'm very glad to see all of you people. Good to see Angela. I am calling from LA. I'm sorry if I missed anyone's stories, but I was working at my job, which is, of course, having sex with very attractive celebrities, because I'm doing well in LA. I'm doing very good. Don't look at my name. It's Terrence Pennington. His computer, we have a civil union. We share car insurance. We are basically the same person. Although I am stronger. I'm like the twin in the womb who absorbs the other twin. He will be just a part of me someday. So he uses my computer because his computer doesn't have a camera. But we are doing very good. We're very successful out here. We're not struggling. Daniel McRoby is looking at me because that's where his room is. Our rooms are directly across from each other. There's no space. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention. Antifa actually is burning and looting the entire city of Los Angeles. That is true. They're not covering it. They're trying to make everyone communist. But you'll never see that, of course, on the news. Everything you read on Reddit is true. Angela asked me, I think it was a childhood memory. A childhood memory that came true. I'm going to try to piece that together very lazily into the story, but I'm basically going to tell a story about basically my work history since I moved to Los Angeles. I moved out here almost 2 years ago with Terrence. We drove across country with no plan. We couldn't even save $3,000. Our whole plan was to save $3,000 and drive out here. One, did not know what the country of the United States looked like on a map. We were completely wrong. We had to reroute on the way as to where we were going. We thought we were going to go to Tennessee. That shit was way the fuck out of our route. Did not go. Could not save $3,000 either. So we drove out, stayed on a comic that we knew from Boston's Couch who lived out there. And he had solely worked for escape rooms. So when I moved there, he gave me a list of all the escape rooms in LA that I could ask for jobs for. And of course, I picked the one escape room that was owned by a lady from Boston. She called me up and she says, hey, I heard you from Boston and I know you guys are like hard workers and everything. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I know exactly what you look like. And I meet her at a Starbucks and sure enough, she's like this 5'2" Portuguese woman, visibly drunk, and she hires me on the spot. So that was good. My job was to work at a horror-themed escape room in downtown Los Angeles where I dressed like a zombie and scared multicultural families for very little money. It was fun for a half a second, and then I started drinking before shift, which made it actually work out because it turns out the same type of noises that hungover people make is what zombies make. So it's worked out perfectly good for me. I wound up leaving. The next job I got was I started working for this company that they like build stuff for big events. So out here, you know, we did everything. If fucking Nike wanted to have a big release party or something, we would build a giant Nike shoe. We'd put it up and we'd tear it down. We'd be there for the party and everything. We did everything. We did Drake's birthday party. He was like 2 feet away from me while I was putting away tools. And then I thought it was like a 16-hour day. I thought we were done for the entire day. And then he made us tear down a bunch of shit and it became a 20-hour day. So I hope he gets AIDS and COVID. He had a birthday. I mean, he had a mafia movie themed birthday party too, like a fucking 10-year-old. A 34-year ass old man had a movie themed birthday party, and you know, this is why China needs to invade right now. Is that the level of wealth allows people to do that out here? We have too much. But so I did that. So, childhood dream realized. I worked for Demi Lovato's Halloween party, and I saw Paris Hilton. That was pretty sick. And that's all. That's a childhood dream realized. You know, she was part of my sexual revolution as a young man. So seeing her was good enough for me. So one of these jobs for this company that I was doing, I had to work at the Topanga Mall, and it's like a big mega mall. Everyone there has plastic surgery. I'd see like 13-year-old girls and they had like lip implants. I'm like, you look like a fucking alien. Like, I don't understand why these, and they're attractive. Like, you can tell they're attractive people, but they fuck their faces up by injecting them with like, I don't know what, fucking children's blood or something, whatever these satanic pedophiles out in Los Angeles do. I am Alex Jones's apprentice now, so just so you know. Yeah. But the job, we had to do this job in the Topanga Mall where we set up a booth for Claire's. It's like a boutique shop for little girls. It's like if JonBenet Ramsey opened up her own store. If she didn't die and opened up her own store and then turned other girls into JonBenet Ramseys. It's like, you know, it was this booth where like these makeup artists would come in and paint little girls' faces up and, you know, give them hairstyles. And then they got to meet like a Nickelodeon star or something. And my job, I didn't even set up anything. I was there. I had to stay in the mall for the entire event to make sure nothing broke. If something broke, I'd go and fix it. And so my job is to basically just kind of wait around in the mall in case something happened. And so it was like an 8-hour day just in this fucking mall. I did not look good at the time. I was very depressed. I was drinking a ton. They make you slick your hair back, and I didn't know how to style my hair at the time. I'd never used any type of product. So I was using Terrence's, my African-American roommate's hairstyling product, which is it's for black people hair. So it's not, I have thin, shitty Irish hair. It's not made for me. So it's very thick, and it just pulled my hair back. I looked like I was like fucking Whitey Bulger's like nephew or some shit. I looked so violently sketchy already. And they make you wear, the uniform they give me is just a black t-shirt and like gray cargo pants, which are way too big. And I had, since I was going to be spending so long there, I had my sketchbook with me, which is like this satchel looking thing. And I just had to walk around the mall and wait until someone called me. And, you know, every 40 minutes or so, I was supposed to check in and like see if anything needed fixing or needed cleaning. So I would go walk by every 40 minutes or so this booth full of little girls and just kind of look at them, you know? And I thought that was fine. And I remember as the day went on, I remember I was leaning over the balcony, just kind of spacing out, wasn't even looking at him, just thinking like, how the fuck am I going to kill the next 6 hours? And then some guy was looking at me, look at these little girls, and he just gave me a weird look. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy's problem? And then I realized what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, this guy thinks I'm trying to kill all these children, these little children. And So I went far away. I sat in my car for the rest of the day. I probably sweated out like 10 pounds. And at the end of the day, the woman who were, doing the hair, I went back to take all the stuff down, and they looked petrified at me when I came up. They scuttled to the corner, and then the client who hired us told me that they thought I was a pedophile. And that was really probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because I really kind of got my act together after that. I started drinking water, which incredible stuff, I'll tell you. Really, really cool what water can do to you. Yeah, that's kind of how LA perceives me. A, working class Irish piece of shit from Massachusetts. That's about 7 minutes, 30 seconds. That's about it for me. Thank you very much.
Give it up for Killian McCaskey. Killian, I love that you're doing well in LA, and I love that the now look that you have, the sort of like anorexic sailor on the front of a craft beer bottle, is the good part.
Yeah. If I can go for like alcoholic firefighter, that's good. This is the best version of me yet.
Nice. I love it. You're doing great. That was hilarious. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. All right, I got one performer left for you. I'm so excited. I haven't got to see her talk in so long, and I've missed her. I think about her sets from like years ago to this day. She is also visiting us from LA, and I can't think of anybody who I would rather have finish up our show tonight because she's so funny. Please put your hands together right now for Maya May.
Yeah.
Hi, Angela. Thank you for allowing me to ramble, which is what I'm about to do. My topic is the time that is opposite of right now. And you said we could go off topic, but my brain went to what is time? And so I looked it up because I am like The Matrix is my favorite movie. And I knew sort of that the definition of time is the measuring of space between one event and the next event. But the actual definition of time, it's the indefinite continued progress of existence and events in the past, present, and future regarded as a whole. That's made up shit. That's just made up. I'm like, that's not, clearly time isn't real, because this definition sounds like somebody was working on a book report and they were like, I'm just going to say a bunch of stuff that sounds smart because none of it doesn't make any sense. And I truly, I found out yesterday, I scheduled smartly. I scheduled a therapy appointment yesterday, online, because you can do that now, which I didn't know that actually until very recently, that you could they have all these virtual therapy appointments. And I was like, I want to be prepared for whatever is going to go down. So I want to have this appointment. And so I'm having the appointment with the woman, and she gets on. And first of all, I had tried to schedule an appointment with her before. She canceled it. I scheduled it again, at the same time. I was like, oh, no, you are meeting with me on election day. I don't care what your plans are. We're going to do this. I'm going to need this. And so the session starts, and it's with an actual psychologist, right? And so I'm giving her information about my day, because I'm thinking okay, I got 45 minutes. You can see a timer on it. So if you've ever done the virtual visit, there's an actual timer. So I'm watching the time click away, thinking about my copay, clicking away. And I'm like, okay, I got to tell this woman my life story. So at the end of 45 minutes, she could tell me how to get through the rest of COVID. That's what I needed to do. That was my goal. And so I started telling her, I'm just bouncing around the stories. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm from Chicago. I lived in Boston. I was in Argentina for 8 years, and I'm doing all this stuff. And she's watching me, and she's just nodding slowly, like this, to the point where I'm like, I don't know if she's hearing me, kind of thing. Because I'm like, look, I'm just trying to get the details out here. I'm like, let's get all the details out. And I'm thinking, because it's like the opposite of Goodwill Hunting, where he doesn't want to talk in therapy. Like me, I'm like, this is all the stuff you need to know. Let's fix it. And so she's asking me about like my, family history. And I picked this woman in particular because she was born in Mexico and moved here like midlife. And so I wanted somebody who understood like that whole bicultural thing. Because like also in the time of the opposite of right now, I was also like, well, where was I this time, like, 10 years ago or whatever? And I was like, oh, I was in Argentina. So I'm like thinking about like time, space, right? And so this is why I picked her. So she stops me and she says, she's like, you have a lot of energy. You're very high energy. And I said, is that bad? Is that a diagnosis? And she's like, well, no, but you mentioned your father's bipolar, so maybe there's something there. And I was like, well, yeah, but then there's depressive episodes, right? Like, I don't have those. And she's like, okay, fair enough. And so I'm trying to get my money in, right? And my money's worth. And I'm thinking of like the follow-up appointments, or then I think they're like cheaper. We get to like probably like 2/3 of the way in, and she says, I don't think I will be a good therapist for you. Which I didn't know that could be a thing. I didn't know a therapist could tell you that she's like, you have too much energy and I think you'll get frustrated with me. And I was like, no, you're frustrated with me. Like, stop projecting your pacing on me. Because I explained to her, I was like, well, I mean, I have high energy. I'm a comedian. I'm, whatever. And so now I'm kind of getting mad because I'm like, this is money that I'm spending for this woman to tell me that she can't work with me. And so I'm like, all right, well, fine. I'm going to get the rest of this 15 minutes. I'm going to tell you about my day and you're just going to listen. And she's looking at me through this, like, really? You're good? And I'm just like, yeah. I was like, I got like 13 minutes left. I'm like, I'm gonna run out the clock. I will run out the clock. We will stay here until the time is up. And then I'm gonna write a really shitty review. I'm gonna go on here and I'm gonna be like, whatever. I'm not gonna say her name because I'm not like that. I'm not petty. God, I want to say her name. But I'm not going to. And so she's like, wait, stop. I want to give you a list of resources. Like, I want to give you a list of resources that you can use. And then she's like, okay. And she goes, she's like, now get a pen ready. I'm like, bitch, I have a pen ready. We've already discussed this. I am high energy. I have spreadsheets ready. Like, I have everything ready right now. Like, I'm ready. You're not ready. You're slow. So she's giving me now resources that I can go to. And she's talking and she says, at one point, she's like, and then have you looked into ADHD? And I went, that's me. That's what I have. That's what I have. I forgot. So I self-diagnosed as ADHD probably 10 years ago and then forgot. I literally forgot. And so all of a sudden I was like happy with this woman. Like, I was like, why didn't you just tell me that in the beginning? I told you I was very type A. I told you I had all these things I needed to do. We could have used this entire time. Like, I was like, you saw that I was high energy. So it's changed my world between yesterday and today. I've already downloaded a book that is called, it's called Smart But Stuck. And here's the thing. My ADHD has always been managed because I meditate, which is how I want to wrap up this story. Because I meditate so much that it's seemingly managed, meaning I meditate in the morning for like 45 minutes to an hour. It lasts me until about 1 o'clock. And then at 1 o'clock, I'm just all over the place. Can't remember anything on my to-do list, have like 7 different notebooks that I'm working with. We'll find something and be like, oh my God, I totally forgot I wrote that. Oh, like da-da-da-da-da. And so like the cool thing about meditation is it's all about being present, right? Like, it's all about being present, being in the now. I learned about meditation when I was 8. My parents took me to an ashram in South Fallsburg, New York. And that's where I found out the definition of my name means illusion in Hindi. And I was like, you know, imagine being 8 and I'm like, I'm not here. Like, I'm not real. And then my last name is also partially Maya as well. So it's like I'm doubly not here. So like none of this is real is what I'm saying. None of this is real. And so with meditation, it's all about being present and in the now. And I'm like, but now is really hard. Like now is like where's that meditation that gets me like to the future? And this is where I want to get. This is where I'm finishing the story. I have no idea. I haven't been timing myself, and I was so impressed that everybody had been that I was like, "Oh, you should time yourself. Pull up your thing to time yourself." And then I did, and then I forgot because of the ADHD, and I didn't have time to meditate today or yesterday because the world. So I have no idea how much time. So hopefully this isn't wrapping too soon. So time, meditation. Everything happens all at once. There is no time, right? This whole idea of past, present, and future, it doesn't exist. Like I'm super into like the quantum physics, like, you know, what the bleep, like everything. And so I think I have verifiable proof that there is no time. As you know, I went from Boston to Chicago to LA. Last week sometime, there was screaming in my courtyard. Like people were shouting and screaming at night. And I freaked out. I was like, holy shit, maybe Trump died. And I like run out into the courtyard because I'm like, I'm sure that's what happened because my building would totally support that. Of natural causes, of course. Like I wouldn't want the CIA to be behind it, though that's what I thought they're supposed to do. Like, I don't know, aren't they supposed to maintain the stability of the country? That's what they do in Scandal. And so I run out there and so somebody comes down, they're like, oh my God, they won the World Series. One didn't know the World Series was happening, but the Dodgers, you probably know because y'all watch baseball. I don't know. The Dodgers just won the World Series. When I was in Chicago, the fucking Cubs won the World Series. And when I had just moved to Boston in 2013, fucking Boston won the World Series. It's a vortex, is what I'm saying, of time. Time's not real. Everything's going to be fine. I'm going to meditate tomorrow. That's my story. Thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate it.
Oh, Maya May, you guys.
Yeah.
So good.
Woo.
Maya, I went to school for philosophy, so at some point, someone, if you tell them the definition of time, that time's not real, somebody is going to tell you that St. Augustine invented that definition of time. Don't read his books. He's a moron. Just leave them alone. He's a terrible guy, and that's his definition, and whatever, that's fine. But he's just a bad Catholic dude, so leave him alone. Also, I want to tell you that you were talking about the therapist and how it's really difficult to, anytime you interact with the medical world, you're spending so much money. It's so expensive that you can't actually get the thing out of it because you're trying so hard to like make it work for you, you know? It's a practical impossibility every time. And I agree. I don't go to therapy. I do this instead. Sorry. And but I have had one, and the only time I've ever been to therapy is when I was 18 years old. I had just moved out of my parents' house. I was trying to get an apartment. I didn't know how to get one. And the only one that I found, you had to like say you'd been to therapy and give them a little piece of paper to prove it so that you could get the apartment. So I was bad at finding apartments. That's all it was. So that was in the late 80s. And there's therapy that comes through insurance is much more likely to happen now than it was in the late 80s. In the late 80s, there were only like 5 therapists in the world. There were no, they just didn't exist very much. So I went through, couldn't afford it. So I like wrote a bunch of letters and made a bunch of weird phone calls. And they were like, sure, we'll get you a therapist through insurance. There's only one guy. You have to go see him. And it turned out that I was assigned the therapist from the state jail.
What?
So it turned out to be a good thing because you know who doesn't care about your problems? It's the therapist from the state jail. That guy's like, oh, you're 18 years old and your parents don't like you that much? Whoo, whoop-de-doo. You haven't killed anybody. You're fine. And the good news is you go and see that person for like 3 weeks and they're like, you're healthy. You're so healthy. You've not murdered. You haven't. You're so super healthy. And I was like, I'm taking that. I'm going to the bank with that diagnosis.
Like,
I'm
literally.
getting an apartment with it. So as far as I'm concerned, we're both fine. We're both doing just fine. Time doesn't need to be real for our purposes, so who cares?
Agreed.
We did it, you guys.
Woo!
Thank you for coming to the show. I really appreciate you taking time out of your anxiety-filled hellscape, as I know we're all living in, to visit with us. Thank you so much to the performers here. They were fantastic. You guys all did a really, really great job. And thanks to the Comedy Studio, they let us do this still for reasons unknown. They just keep letting us do these weird Zoom shows. So I hope to see you again. And maybe by the next time I see you, we'll have a president but whatever. I don't want to jinx it. So
we're so close. We're so close.
either a president or a civil war will have begun. And when that happens, I'm going straight to that CVS so that I can loot it for my asthma medication that I can't afford. That seems fine. I'll see you soon. Thank you very much for watching Tales from the Inside.
Thank you.
Ooh, pizza's here.